Okay guys, now to something fun. So we finally have some questions to do. So let's look at this. It's saying reduce to lowest terms. So all that means is it's just like a fraction that we're reducing to lowest terms. And we have already covered fraction, so you know how to do it. So 12 to 232, it can be written as 12 ratio 32, which is basically saying the same thing as 12 over 32. So if I have to reduce either this or this to this lowest terms, all I have to find is find common factor. Already I can see that 12 and 32 are even numbers, and even numbers are divisible by 2, right? So if something is divisible by 2, then it's even number, and if it's even number, it's divisible by 2. So if all I can see is 2 times 6 is 12, 2 times 6 is 12, and 2 times 16 is 32. 2 times 6 is 12, and 2 times 16 is 32, which is, right? And they're still even numbers. We can still further divide them by 2. So 2 times 3 is 6, and 2 times 8 is 16. Now we cannot divide them any further. Why? Because 3 is a prime number. Prime numbers are only divisible by themselves. So 3 divisible by 3 or by 1, right? There's nothing else that divides 3 in a way that does not, that leaves a remainder. It always leaves a remainder. So 3 divided by 2 is always not going to be completely divided. 3 times 2, and we have a remainder. So that's not going to work. So basically we're left with 3 ratio 8. Okay, so that's the answer for the first one. Let's try another question, and then you guys will try something. Okay, let's try this one here. So 21 ratio 42 ratio 91, right? Again, all we're doing is finding common factors, something that can divide all of them. Remember what I told you about that. So is this divisible by 2? Well, we can check if these are even numbers. These are not even numbers, so none of, except for 42, none of them are even numbers, so we can't divide them by 2. What about 3? Well, to check if something's divisible by 3, all you have to do is add the digits. So 2 plus 1 is 3. So yes, this is divisible by 3 because it's divisible by, because it's the sum of its digits is divisible by 3. 4 plus 2 is 6. So 6 is divisible by 3, so this is divisible by 3 too. What about 91? 9 plus 1 is 10. 10 is not divisible by 3, so 91 is also not divisible by 3. So we cannot use 3 either. Okay, so 3 is not going to work. What about 4? No, it's not going to work. Not here, not here, not here. 5, no, because either 5, something has to be, either the ending has to be 0 or 5. None of them is 0 or 5. What about 6? Not really, because something to be divisible by 6, it has to be either divisible by 2, it has to be divisible by both 2 and 3, which is none of these are, which all 3 of them are not. So 6 is not. What about 7? That's interesting. 7 times 3 is 21. Okay, so that's going to work. 7 times 6 is 42. Okay, so that's going to work. And 7 times 91, 121. 7 times 13 is 91. Okay, there you go. So 7. 7 is our number. 7 is the hidden number. Whoa, whoa, 7. Well done, well done, well done. Okay, so 7 times 3 is 21. Ratio 42. 7 times 6 is 42. Ratio 7 times 1, 21. So 7 times 13. So 3 ratio 6 ratio 13. We cannot divide it any further because 3 is a prime number and 13 is a prime number, and prime numbers don't divide any further. So we are left with reduce this in the form. So this then turns, this is the lowest form of this. The lowest, we have expressed this in lowest terms in this way. 3 ratio 6 ratio 13. Okay, very good. So let's look at what the other questions are asking us. Set up a ratio for each of the following and reduce to lowest terms. 12 dimes to 5 quarters. Okay, 12 dimes to 5 quarters. Now, question is, what is the question? Well, they're not in the same. They're not in the same unit, right? Let's look at the second one. 15 hours. 15 hours ratio 3 days. Again, problem is not in the same units. Okay. Now, unless there are rate problems, we are not going to use the different units, okay? 6 seconds for 50 meters. Again, 6 seconds and ratio 50 meters, okay? What the hell? Now, this is a rate, so it doesn't really matter. We don't have to convert it in the same thing. This is a rate. For every 60 minutes, 50 meters are spent, so that's okay. 72 per dozen. 72, that's dollars per dozen. That's also a rate. So 72 ratio a dozen. A dozen is 12. So for $72 spent, you get a dozen eggs or a dozen idiots. I don't know. It's $40 per day for 12 employees for 14 days. So that would be 40 ratio 12 ratio 14, right? $40. $40 for 12 employees for 14 days. 40 ratio 12 ratio 14. Next, 2% per month for 24 months for $5,000. So 2%. That's 2 over 100 ratio 24 ratio 5,000. So 22% for 24 months for $5,000. Okay, 2% per month for 24 months for $5,000. So this is how we can set up a ratio. But he's also asked us to reduce them to the lowest term. So let's take a few. We can reduce them to the lowest terms as well. 15 ratio 3. Now the thing is, this is in hours, this is in days. So what we can do is convert either the hours to days, which will lead us to a which will give us like an answer in decimals. So it's basically better for us to just convert the days into hours. So each day has 24 hours. So 3 multiplied by 24, it's going to be 72. So 72 hours and 15 hours, and that's going to be our ratio. Now we have to look if any of them are divisible by something further. Do you have common factors? Well, 2. We're going to divide them by 2 because both of them are not even. What about 3? Well, 5 plus 1 is 6, so 6 is divisible by 3. That means 15 is divisible by 3. 7 plus 2 is 9, so 9 is divisible by 3. So 72 is divisible by 3. So we are left with 3 times 5 is 15, and 3 times, how many times is 72? 24. Yeah, 24 times 3 is 72, right? So then you have, so you got 5 ratio 24. 5 ratio 24 is our answer, right? So you have to do the same thing for the other ratios that we set up. So 70, like here we had $72 per dozen, $72 per dozen, right? So the dozen we translated as 12. Well, both of them are divisible by 2, so we can just divide these by 2. So we have 36, because 36 times 2 is 72, right? So that's what we do that way. And then 6 times 12, 2 times 6 is 12. Now these are still even numbers, so they can still be divided by 2. So there's still a lower form that we can go take them to. So 2 times 18 is 36, and 2 times 3 is 6. So what about 2? Now both of them are not divisible by 2 because this is even, but this is not, so we cannot divide them by 2. However, 8 plus 1 is 9. 9 is divisible by 3, and so is 18. So 3 times 6 is 18, and 3 times 1 is 3. So now we can express this in the form of $72 per dozen. Instead, we can say $6 per one. If this was an egg, then $6 per one egg. So every egg is like, I don't know, $6, right? So that's how we set up these ratios. So first of all, in this question, they were being asked to set up the ratios, right? Like I did earlier. And then we were being asked to figure out how can we convert them into the lowest form. For situations like this, where they all have different units, that's fine because they're talking about different things. So $40 for 12 employees for 14 days, okay? So this is money, and this is employees, and this is days, and that's fine. That's not a big deal. Same with the rates. So 6 seconds for 15 meters, you can do that. That's fine. As long as you know yourself what you're talking about, you don't want to get confused. For things like this, where you have 2 over 100, 2%, ratio 24 months, ratio 5,000, what we can do is you can write these in the form of you can write them in a form such that you can take the fraction out. So 2 over 100 can be written as 1 over 50, right? And then if I multiply, so it's going to be written as 1 over 50 ratio 24 ratio 5,000. So the other thing I can do to make this into a whole number is multiply all of these with 50. I can't just multiply, if I multiply all of them with 50, then I'll get, so 1 over 50 multiplied by 50, 50 and 50 get canceled, and you'll get 1. So 1 ratio 50 multiplied by 24 is to 1200 ratio 25,000. So you get 1 ratio 1200 ratio 25,000, right? Sorry, not 250,000. And now you can take it all down into its lowest form. The problem is this is already 1, so we can't take it further into its lowest form. So this is the lowest form we can have it in. Okay. All right, good. You could have also just left it like this. That's fine. It's not a big deal. As long as you don't have problems. Again, these are small parts. There's just getting practice and actually dealing with stuff later on. Okay. Next, use equivalent ratios in higher terms to eliminate decimals from the following ratios. Okay, that's what I just did when I multiplied 2% by 50 and this by 50 and this 50. I brought it to higher terms, which is not lowest terms. So I did it in a way I did it incorrectly, but I was trying to show you guys how to remove the decimal. So this is now what's asking us to do. So for example, 1.2524, we can set it up as like this. And if you multiply this number with 4 and this number with 4, 4 times 1.25 is 5. 4 times 4 is 16. So now you've expressed it in higher terms and you have eliminated the decimal, right? So this has now been expressed in a non-decimal form, but it's obviously in a higher form than this one, which was in a lower form. In other words, this had been divided further, right? So anyways, so now you have to do the same with all these questions, right? So let's take this one, 2 over 5, 2 over 5 ratio, this one, ratio 3 over 4 ratio 5 over 16. Okay, again, if you can find a common denominator, then we can just write the top parts and forget about the lower parts. Okay, so how do we find a common denominator? Well, we can find an LCM, or lowest common multiple. So 5, 4, 16. Well, 4 times 1 is 4 and 4 times 4 is 16. The 5 will just come down as it is. 4 times 5 will just come down as it is. 1 will come down as it is. 4 times 1 is 4, and 5 times 1 is 1 was 5, and 1 and 1, and then 5 times 4 is 20, and 20 times 4 is 80. So 80 is the least common multiple, because 5 goes in 80, 4 goes in 80, and 16 goes in 80, right? So 5 goes, how many times does 5 go in 80? Well, it goes 85, 16 times, right? 16 times. This 16, I can multiply with this 2, so 16 times 2 is 32, right? Now, same with 4. How many times does 4 go on 80? 20 times, right? 4 goes 20 times on 80. So this 20 gets multiplied by this 3. So 20 times 3 is 60. Remember, we're not adding them. This is not an addition. We're just trying to figure out a common denominator for them. And ratio 5. So 16 times 5 is 80, right? So 5 times 5 is 25. Now that we have both the same denominator for all of them, we can just forget about the denominator and just write it as 32 ratio 60 ratio 25. And that's now eliminated the fractions, and we can write the same thing, these things, the same way as this. Okay? All right, very good. Let's get some more practice under the belt here.